She declared her love for you. She left even though she meant what she said. It is not contradictory. Human nature is like that. Additionally, until you comprehend the difference, you will continue to lose the women you believed to be yours. The majority of males spend. This confused their life. They replay exchanges. They examine texts, messages. Friends are asked what went wrong. However, the specifics don't reveal the answer. The solution is located far away, older than your partnership. A 19th century philosopher had a deeper understanding of this than the majority of modern therapists. His Arthur Schopenhauer was his name. Dark was the name given to him. They called him bitter. He was referred to as a pessimist. Here's something his detractors never bring up, though. He was correct on things that most people didn't want to give in, and what he knew about the unseen forces, women, and attraction. The significance of human bonding has never been greater. This isn't regarding fault. Finding out what genuinely motivates connection is the goal here. Due to the A-man with clear vision avoids being caught off guard. He is not a beggar. He doesn't spiral. He creates something tangible, and it begins with one uneasy, the truth. Love is not a commitment. Love is a reaction. Let it land. A female doesn't. She promised to stay, so she did. She chooses to stay, since something in her experience keeps motivating her to remain. Her emotions change as that encounter does. Not because she is nasty, because emotion doesn't work, not because she is dishonest. On reasoning, emotion is conditional, and the majority of guys never discover what those circumstances are. More than 200 years ago, Schopenhauer witnessed this. He spoke about a force functioning below the level of human awareness. He referred to it as the will to live rather than a not a choice, a motivation, a survival engine throbbing beneath every kiss, every disagreement, every smile. This power is indifferent to your well-being, plans. It looks for something quite different. Power, according to Robert Greene, as the capacity to influence people without using force. According to Machiavelli, men judge by appearances since they just have an impact on you and cannot touch your heart. Thinkers realize that creating is more important than intending, and the majority of guys fall into that gap. They think loyalty is earned via work. They think that security is guaranteed by kindness. They think that if they give enough, make enough sacrifices, and demonstrate themselves sufficiently, the relationship will become indestructible. But that's not how bonds operate. According to Schopenhauer, you're treating. When it functions like weather, love is like a transaction, and you can't bargain with weather. The only thing you can do is understand how it moves and position yourself appropriately. Here's the what does your presence do to her neurological system? It's not your words that will direct the entire video. Not your assurances, your presence, how she feels in your presence. That when you enter the room, people don't recall what you said. Instead, they remember the feeling her body has, how they felt in your presence. Additionally, emotions follow patterns rather than being random. You can alter and comprehend patterns, but only if you stop. For the next 40 minutes, I'm going to assume that love is powered by something cleaner. Going to dissect Schopenhauer's observations regarding women, attractiveness, and the secret workings of desire. I'll demonstrate where excellent men fall short and why effort backfires, and what genuinely fosters enduring loyalty. I'll give because depth outweighs width. You only need one framework, not two. In the end, you'll see every relationship you've ever been in through a different lens. But first, I need something from you. The early parts will test you. Stay until the framework lands. The purpose of Schopenhauer's writing was to clarify, not to console, and it may make you uncomfortable. To gain insight, one must confront topics that most people avoid. As Jung famously stated, until you bring the unconscious into awareness, it will guide your life and you will refer to it as fate. This video's goal is to bring into view what functions in the dark, but not for your own manipulation, in order to prevent yourself from being tricked by your own delusions, since delusions are costly, costing you years. They deprive you of your dignity and the relationships you truly desire. A man who is aware of truth doesn't get frigid. Instead, he becomes liberated. Let's start. Schopenhauer's philosophy was based on a single realization: the will to live your ideas beneath your character and beneath all of your beliefs. There is, he referred to it as the will to life, a blind energy that propels you forward, pushing for continuance, reproduction, and survival. You don't pick this force, you have no control over it, and you frequently aren't even aware of it. Yet it shapes everything, including your attractions, worries, and desires. This is why it's important for relationships, your attachments. When you fall in love, you feel as though you're choosing someone based on their characteristics. According to Schopenhauer, that's only the surface narrative. Something older is in operation. It isn't concerned with compatibility charts or common interests. Instead, it's concerned with this energy is disguised as survival, security, and the continuation of life itself. It whispers, "She's the one." It calls itself romance. It calls itself destiny. However, these emotions developed to motivate you to take action rather than to make you joyful. Happiness serves as the lure, and biology serves as the means of pursuit, bonding, and protection. Hook. Now consider women. Schopenhauer noted that there is a certain environmental sensitivity in psychology, not because women are calculating, because historically, making poor decisions came at a larger cost. Pregnancy increased vulnerability. Stability was crucial during birthing because to dependence, the nerve system. It evolved, becoming more adept in interpreting men and detecting danger, at determining whether the future felt assured or unpredictable. NZ made a statement. He pointed out that women evolved psychological accuracy as a means of surviving. It wasn't optional to read the room, it was a tool, not manipulation or adaptation. Therefore, when a woman develops a link with you, part of that tie is reacting to something beneath what you say. It's reading your direction, your solidity, your emotional state, and it continues to read non-stop each day. Nothing dramatic, but why love might feel solid one month and wobbly the next. Occurred, but the fundamental experience changed in some way. Perhaps you became nervous. Perhaps you lost your life's drive. Perhaps you began to need her. She might not identify it, but she needed your reassurance more than she needed yours. Even comprehend it. However, her neurological system detects the shift, and an example of how attraction reacts is when a man dates a lady for a year. Feel resilient. After losing his job, he reacts adversely and becomes irritable, complains all the time. He checks her phone, wonders if she still loves him, and he uses her as his emotional fulcrum, and she stays with him every day. Instantly, but something begins to show in the way she gazes at him. Shifts, the desire wanes, the laughing grows thinner, and he considers the issue is the loss of employment. It wasn't. Rather, the issue was what the loss of employment exposed. A man whose core was not internal, whose stability was dependent on external circumstances. A man who broke down inward under duress and held her accountable. Schopenhauer would claim that the desire to live in her began searching for the departure. The messages started unconsciously, and the relationship stopped. Machiavelli is helpful in this situation because he wrote that males are kept faithful by fear or love, but he cautioned that love is brittle because the other person's will determines this. The astute leader protects himself not through structure and hope. Apply this to relationships. Cannot rely solely on hope to win love. You cannot count on devotion simply because you have to develop something within yourself that keeps the experience going. Structure, not pleading. Presence, not performance. That's what she has with you. People unconsciously repeat patterns and recreate dynamics, according to Freud, from their history without being aware of it. A lady who experienced fear as a child might be more sensitive to men's instability. A woman who feels suffocated might withdraw when clinginess initially appears. These responses aren't rational, they're conditioned, and you'll take everything personally if you don't comprehend this. Sometimes her retreat is about you, and other times it's not. Regarding patterns, she's not even aware that she's running. However, you have influence over your own steadiness. Direction, your ability to maintain stability in the face of life's ups and downs. Your posture and how you stand convey a deeper message than the words you use. You manage stress. Whether your mood is influenced by her mood is in, the will to live in her is reading if your life has structure outside of the partnership, and it never, the principle of security stops. Now we delve farther. According to Schopenhauer, beneath attraction is a hunt for security rather than thrill, yet security doesn't imply what security isn't money, it's not muscles, and it's not a guarantee that you'll never depart. Her body experiences security while she's with you, and forces that most guys never consider shape that experience. Here's she doesn't bond to what you say, she bonds to the truth that transforms everything, to what she frequently encounters in your presence. If that experience is steady, strong, and serene, attachment dies if that sensation is heavy, nervous, or reactive. Despite your good intentions, loyalty, and kindness, Epictetus taught that we suffer because of our perceptions of events rather than the events themselves. Who treats every little thing as though it were a crisis fosters an environment of turmoil. A man who struggles with women sense the atmosphere of safety that calmness fosters, but they don't. They examine it. They take it in. I'll give you an example. Two males encounter the identical issue. Their partner is aloof. One evening, she is silent and doesn't want to talk. The first man becomes alarmed and asks 6 times what's wrong, assuming he did. He hovers, he pushes, he apologizes for things he didn't do, makes her stop talking about him. The man notices, yet he doesn't give up. He maintains his warmth but doesn't ask for explanations, because he believes that whatever he doesn't require her to be in a good mood for him to be all right. The same incident, too. She had entirely different experiences. Man 1 expressed reliance. Man also expressed solidity. Thus, her peace is necessary for his. He's protected because he can maintain his core even when she's not around. She doesn't understand what Schopenhauer meant when he remarked that the will functions under reason. She senses that Guy 2 is secure and Man 1 is needy. Her body is aware of this. Accordingly, her desire reacts. Robert Greene spoke about the law of defensiveness. When you make an excessive effort to persuade someone, you set them off. The more you push, the more they withdraw. Attraction and persuasion both operate indirectly. Way. You can't bargain for passion, coerce someone into wanting you, or give up your way. To being desired. The instant you hold her accountable for your feelings, you give the connection more weight than it was intended to have, and even if she loves you, weight breeds resentment. You, particularly if she loves you, this is where Jung's idea of the shadow comes into play. Powerful. According to Jung, we all have hidden aspects, characteristics we hide, and needs we unwillingness to acknowledge that when these unconscious shadow forces control our conduct, they undermine us. A lot of men have a hidden need for approval. They overgive in order to feel appreciated, even though they acknowledge it. They overcheck to feel safe, they overexplain to feel understood, and every one of these behaviors conveys the same idea. I am insufficient on my own. Not because women are mean, but rather because of their need for strength, the message is seduction poison. Marcus Aurelius said very little, and a man who requires continual affirmation of love shows that his basis is weak. is necessary to have a happy existence, and it comes from within you in your own way. Thinking. This is relationship strategy, not just philosophy. When you cease bringing neediness into every encounter, steadiness comes from inside. You cease seeing the relationship like a court case where you interpret her mood as a judgment on your value. Despite the fact that you're constantly defending yourself, she feels most secure as she can now unwind without having to worry about your feelings. She may simply be with you without having to reassure you all the time. You are the source of genuine connection. Here's the idea. Security is something she experiences because of who you are, not something you give her with words. A man who breaks down at, even if he guarantees safety, every challenge does not result in security. A man who maintains composure under duress, even if he never makes a commitment to it, speaks louder than proclamations. So what truly transpires in her when she's with you, not what you intend neurological system? You'll see your relationships if you can honestly respond to that question. With fresh eyes. This is where good men, not evil or nasty men, lose. The trap of dependency. Men, devoted men who would sacrifice all for their beloved women, and Schopenhauer cautioned of a trap masquerading as devotion, and that's precisely the issue. When a man makes a woman, he undermines the relationship at the core of his existence rather than strengthening it, because everything is altered by dependency. Let me explain. A man meets a woman, falls in love, and initially has his own life. She is a complement, not a replacement, to his own objectives, friends, and purpose. Everything seems to be in balance, but gradually things change, and he begins to postpone plans to be with her. He gives up on his own hobbies, and his contentment turns into connected to her presence. When she's content, he's content. When she's aloof, it feels like love. He spirals. He is unaware of the shift. Like dedication, but in reality he's contracting. His world is. She begins to feel the pressure as it gets smaller and smaller, not as something overt, but rather as something understated, a weight, a feeling that she's accountable for his welfare. A sense that if she withdraws, he would disintegrate. That's not romantic. Machiavelli saw this power structure dynamic as a hardship. He wrote that the relationship is dominated by the person who cares the least, not because caring is bad. Because excessive investment leads to imbalance, and imbalance generates disdain. When you become overly dependent on someone, you begin to act in ways that alienate them. You look for validation. You turn minor disagreements into major ones, and you take quiet as rejection. Every conversation is tinged with tension, and most guys are unaware of this. Even if you don't say it, she can sense the hold. Albert Ellis, This trend was vividly recognized by the psychologist who developed rational emotive therapy, who named it demandingness. Conviction that something has to happen in order for you to be all right. Demand that she demonstrate her love, insist that she never distance herself from you. You make the partnership into a prison for both parties when you insist on continual intimacy of you. She is confined, you are nervous, no one prevails. Now compare this with a guy of inner sufficiency, as defined by Schopenhauer, who has a profound affection but doesn't crumble without her. He can feel detachment. His identity is independent of the state of the relationship. He has sources of meaning beyond romance, so he doesn't see it as a catastrophe. This is health, not coldness. The paradox is that the man who requires, because his presence feels clean, the man she desires more is frequently the one she has less of. His affection has no debt, and he offers because he feels free, desires to, not because he must get something back. NZ mentioned the man who sacrifices everything for love runs the risk of developing bitterness, gradually grows resentful. He maintains a mental record of his debts. He blows up when the money isn't paid. She's perplexed. She never. Despite being asked to make the sacrifices, he did so and now demands reimbursement. This is generosity masquerading as reliance. You must consider this question. Would you have a purpose and structure in your life if she departed tomorrow? Would you be left with nothing because you built something, or would you have an identity? Everything surrounding her. The truthful response indicates whether you're fostering love, or Young would reply that a man who loses himself in a woman hasn't built a trap, integrated his own masculine energy. Rather than finding wholeness within himself, he is looking to woman for fulfillment, himself, and she's subconsciously looking for wholeness, a comprehensive "what do you do, man?" You're not a half man attempting to use her as the missing piece. With this, you re-establish activities that are important to you. You renew friendships you let wane, you go beyond the bond, and you recommit to objectives you gave up on. You cease using her as your sole source of purpose. A man with a full life doesn't radiate, therefore punish her instead of playing games. Despair. He exudes stability and the will to live in stability. The true effort starts here, not in figuring her out, but in reconstructing her. Yourself. We've reached the framework that keeps everything in place. The three-pillar structure provided a single framework, which I refer to as the 3 pillars of unshakable presence. If you can master these, you'll develop into the type of man whose devotion feels giving is natural. The first pillar is emotional autonomy, is ownership, owning your inner condition regardless of the outside world, rather than coldness. Conditions. According to Schopenhauer, most people are puppets pulled by strings. They are unable to see. What other people do affects their moods. Their stability is dependent on verification. They respond to every circumstance rather than reacting with purpose. Cutting those ties is a key component of emotional autonomy. You don't notice when she's upset. When she's far away, you don't spiral. You don't break up when there is conflict in your relationship. You're holding your center since it belongs to you. It was built by nobody else able to handle it. What does this actually look like? She is furious when she gets home because labor. She doesn't spend enough time with you. She is unwilling to speak. The man without sovereignty turns it into a personal matter. He questions what went wrong. He makes an effort to make her feel better so he can feel secure. He waits tensely for things to normalize. The sovereign man gives her room. He's still warm, but doesn't require her warmth in return. He doesn't consider her mood as a crisis and continues with his evening. Additionally, when he's there, composed, steady, and not bitter, eager to get back in touch. Emotional sovereignty in action. Epictetus preached that you are powerless over what occurs, but only how you react. The individual in charge absorbs this entirely. He no longer allows others to dictate his condition and, by doing this, he establishes himself as the solid foundation that others seek. The second pillar, discernible guidance. Direction is not something you dream about, it's movement. Its wake-up times and finished work are visible to others. You speak of its objectives, and then go after it. She can see that it's moving forward. Why is this important? Due to the want to live scan for trajectory. Where is this man's head? Is he constructing something? Will his future grow or shrink? A man who has no. Despite his kindness, directing becomes emotionally taxing. He floats. Additionally, drift makes her feel anxious. Not due to her shallowness, but rather to stagnation poses a threat to the future, and her neurological system detects it. Green, Robert wrote that you have to give them a reason to believe in you. People are drawn to you by a vision. They are pushed by a vacuum, away. It's not necessary for your direction to be grandiose. It must be genuine, dependable, visible. She needs to see you working on things and involved in life outside of her that are important to you, developing your abilities, resolving issues, and progressing. This is not about making an impression on her. The goal is to create a life so prosperous that the relationship complements it rather than takes its place. A directed man awakens up with purpose. He is working on projects. He has self-imposed deadlines. Has a purpose of his own and doesn't need her to give it to him. Additionally, that man has a magnetic quality. Because of mobility, not because of accomplishment, motion conveys life. Death and the desire to live are communicated by stagnation, decides to live. Respect for boundaries was the third pillar. Walls are not boundaries. Clarity is what defines boundaries. What you accept and what you don't are communicated to others. Moreover, the same thing they tell you. What most men miss is this. Boundaries are seen as a means of controlling her. Actions, they're not. Setting boundaries is about establishing your own expectations. What do you accept treatment? What kind of conduct is acceptable to you? What are compromises? Are you unwilling to make? Without boundaries, a guy becomes amiable on the outside but bitter on the inside. Says yes when he really means no. To maintain harmony, he puts up with disrespect. He leaves his expectations in the hopes of winning his affection. It doesn't. He is disgusted by it. According to Marcus Aurelius, never consider anything to be advantageous to you that will cause you to be disloyal or lose your dignity, which is the barrier that encompasses all other limits. When you respect yourself, you refuse to be treated in a way that goes against that regard. This is done with calm clarity, not with rage or drama. What I agree with, what I disagree with, and what occurs when borders exist. She unwinds. It's not because she intended to treat you badly, but rather because it's unclear. She tests limits because she is anxious and never knows where they are, without being aware that she is testing, and she loses when nothing resists. Boundaries give shape, yet there is no solid thing to respect. These three pillars are: shape creates safety, and safety creates the conditions for love to blossom. Emotional control, clear guidance, and boundaries that are respected something. You just need to grow yourself. None of them call for altering her, and that's precisely why they function. You must live by the pillars. Simply knowing them is insufficient. Using the pillars, I'll demonstrate these concepts in practical settings, because theory without application remains. Your connections don't take place in your head. You're stuck there. In the first scenario, she begins to withdraw herself. This is the same trend. You panic, keep asking what's wrong, and look for hidden meanings in every text. Meaning. You become more open, more engaged, and more present in an effort to bridge the distance. And the gap widens. Here's why. When she tugs, you pay more attention. That conveys just what drives her more away, saying, my state is controlled by withdrawal. If you don't return, I can't be okay. Pressure, which speeds up withdrawal rather than fostering intimacy. Emotional sovereignty is the first pillar response. You perceive the gap without collapse. You stay warm, but instead of pursuing, you focus your efforts on your own life. You follow your guidance. You give her space without reprimanding or frightening her. It relieves pressure and serves as a reminder that you are a complete person. Person, not a blank vessel awaiting her care. She is frequently drawn back by that reminder, quicker than any chase would. In the second scenario, she pushes your limits, occur. She cancels last-minute plans, sometimes intentionally, sometimes not, talks disrespectfully to you, and you ignore her dismissal of anything significant to you, the usual pattern. Avoid confrontation. Tell yourself it's not a no big deal, swallow your annoyance, and pretend nothing occurred, yet she is aware that resentment did occur. Grows. The next test arrives sooner and is more severe. Respect drains away. Good response. You deal with it calmly. Respected boundaries activate, not with accusation, not with clarity, nor with anger. That doesn't work for me. Machiavelli wrote, 5 words, no drama, no lecture, just a line clearly drawn. Injuries must be treated right away and shouldn't be left to worsen. If you put up with disrespect, you teach others to do the same. If you deal with it politely, you create that she might first resist, but that's the test. Your dignity cannot be compromised. Continuous, but a quietly maintained border gains more respect than 1,000 lodgings. In the third scenario, you feel like being dependent is the most difficult to detect since it resembles love. Recognize that your moods fluctuate in tandem with hers and that your days seem meaningless without her contact, and you find yourself organizing your life to fit in with her schedule. This is what commitment looks like. You remind yourself as you lean into the pattern, such as you see the dependence as emotional intensity, while Schopenhauer would you've elevated her to the level of survival. The will has taken over. Crucial and survival behaviors are produced by survival necessities. Anxiousness, fear, clinginess, and control. The pillar response, you consciously reinvest in your own life, and clear direction becomes imperative. You re-establish friendships, you plan events unrelated to her, and you pick up abandoned projects as medicine, not as manipulation, not as punishment, because dependency is a structural issue rather than an emotional one, and it can be resolved by rebuilding structure. By establishing a life that is significant enough that no individual might serve as the foundation. This isn't about showing her less love, rather, it's about extending your life. This allows love to flourish. Freud recognized that neurosis frequently results from unfulfilled wants that are too narrowly focused. When all of your needs for one individual becomes the conduit for meaning, connection, and purpose. Unbearably burdened. It is not betrayal to distribute such requirements over a lengthy life. Situation 4. The relationship is in serious trouble. It's health. Arguments occur, difficult times occur, and there may be internal or external stressors. Conflict. In difficult times, the traditional tendency is to either collapse or maintain power. Emotionally, or you attempt to control every factor to make things return to normal. Neither approach is effective, the cornerstone. All three pillars are integrated in response to adversity. Emotional sovereignty allows you to function when problems are challenging. You can talk about issues without becoming the issue. You listen to her worries without taking them personally. You maintain your composure even when the relationship is. Having visible guidance helps her remember that there is a future worth striving for, toward. Despite the disagreement, you are still a guy constructing something. You have not lost oneself in the chaos. Respected limits prevent difficult talks. From you can argue without damaging. You can fight without becoming abusive. Disrespecting. Here's the secret: how you respond to adversity shows more than how you manage ease. When things are going well, anyone may be stable. When things go tough, a man who maintains his composure becomes someone she can trust. Through anything. It's not because he makes promises, but rather because he demonstrates objective, not to avoid every challenge, but to develop into a man who stays strong. Anyway, we've covered ground that most men don't go over. Allow me to pull the closing and transformation, bringing everything into a single, distinct picture, since comprehension without you didn't watch this far to remain the same, and integration makes no changes. Without perfume, Schopenhauer observed human nature and the will at work. He saw instinct disguised as romance beneath every promise and grin, and his realization was that love is biological rather than that it is false, genuine yet not enchanted, strong but not unwavering. When a man acknowledges this, he doesn't grow resentful. Instead, he becomes transparent and stops. He stops handling emotions and expects someone else to act rationally, like unbreakable contracts. He stops thinking that if he just puts forth enough effort, makes enough sacrifices, and proves love isn't assured if he puts himself through enough. Nothing human operates in that manner, but when you stop, something else becomes conceivable. When you stop expecting unconditional love, you begin creating the conditions necessary for love to last. When you stop performing for her approval, you begin to fulfill yourself. Cultivating authentic presence, and authentic presence is what genuinely produces allegiance, not deceit, games, or tactics intended to deceive her into staying. The kind of presence that comes from a knowledgeable man himself, a man whose internal stability and direction are visible, a man with distinct boundaries, a man who can hold without domineering, love without grasping, and want without needing. That man is unique, and uniqueness adds value. Not because your Onzi wrote about playing hard to get because you've become hard to replace. Transforming into your true self by eliminating anything that isn't true till only building the 3 pillars eliminates the needy performances, leaving the authentic. Removes the deeds of desperation, leaving behind something sturdy, and sturdy is magnetic, not because women lack depth, but because the neurological system prefers substance. System looks for. The will to live searches for it. Strength is not quantified in I want you to learn from Schopenhauer that it's not pessimism or darkness, but rather emotional architecture, clarity, the ability to quit forming relationships based on wishful thinking, the ability to give up viewing attraction as a reward that you must achieve via sacrifice, the insight to realize that the most profound Jung cautioned that you can provide her with security by becoming secure in yourself. You are aware that what you don't make conscious now dominates you. The will. You are aware of the circumstances that lead to attraction. The dependency trap. You are aware of the 3 pillars. The question is what you do next. After seeing this video, you could get a fleeting realization. You may begin construction today, 1 pillar at a time, or by tomorrow. Sincerely, where am I lacking in emotional sovereignty? When should I cede my stability to others? What would I be? Where is my uncertain direction? Where are my relationships if they weren't the main framework in my life? What have I been putting up with that subtly destroys my self-respect? Answer those questions and you have a plan, but not to win a game or win her back. Becoming the man who, in spite of everything, never loses himself, since this is the ultimate reality. You only have power over who you become. You have no control over whether she remains. Every relationship you have is determined by who you become, the man who masters. Instead of pursuing love, he begins to create the circumstances for love to arrive to him and returns time and again. It is the terrible truth brought to light, the actual application of Schopenhauer's knowledge, and what distinguishes men who complaints from guys that keep losing and wonder what went wrong. It belongs to you. Tell me what hit you if this landed and anything changed inside of you. Toughest. Don't write it for interaction. Instead, write it in the comments to anchor the understanding. Your words take on greater substance than your thoughts alone. And subscribe if you want to see more videos that give you clarity and remove imagination. Currently, enable notifications as the algorithm may not always display what you need. I'm here to give you sight, not to sell you comfort. You must decide what you want to become. Greetings from the Shadow Mind.